So anytime you want to use an attack during a battle or a spell, you'll be using this section here for your attack actions, or over here for your spell actions. For your attacks, let's say you want to use a club. If you click on it, it'll show over here all the different information you need to know. Basically, the important thing that you will need to look at is the range, because that you will need to know if you have the capability to use it, depending on where you and the target of your attack is going to be. 5 feet is a melee range, so they have to be right next to you. And then you'll actually use that attack on Beyond 20. If you click this button, it will send it over to Roll20, and that way it will do all of these fun math things for you and show you a final result. So you don't have to understand the hit dice and the damage output and the damage type, all of that kind of fun stuff. The Dungeon Master will be able to know what is going on just from you rolling that final roll. So if you say, hey, I want to use a club, here's how I use it. If you're not sure, let's say you get a new spell like Moonbeam, lots of information in there. You don't necessarily understand it yourself, or you're not sure if it's applicable in this particular dungeon, if the dungeon's too small for you to use it. You can actually display instead of cast. If you display on your VTT, what that does is it puts all of this text information into the chat of Roll20. That way the Dungeon Master can quickly reference it and say, okay, here's what that means, here's how it goes, this is what would happen. Or they may even say, unfortunately, there's a restriction on that spell that you have to be outdoors, or whatever the case is, they'll be able to do it. So don't feel overwhelmed by the amount of information here. You don't have to understand everything. You really only need to know what item you want to use, what the range is, and how to show the final results on Roll20. So spells are a little more complex. You have spells broken down based off of their level. So you can do cantrips, which is technically a level 0, first level spells, second level spells, and then this little symbol here is spells that require concentration. The main thing that you'll need to keep up with are spell slots. That's probably the most complex part of spell casting. So once you select a spell and you want to be able to cast it to use a spell slot, you'll need to make sure and click this cast button. What this does is it casts the information onto your virtual tabletop, as well as takes away one of your spell slots. So this little 3 here, that's showing you how many spell slots you have left of that level. So if I click this, that number goes down. A green box appears here in my spell slots to show that one has been used up, and it will also put that information into Roll20. Now, down here, let's say I want to cast a second level spell. Alright, so let's do Flame Blade, and I want to be able to cast that. Now if I'm not sure how to use it, or if I want some clarification, I can display in Virtual Tabletop so my Dungeon Master can take a look. Then I look here and I can cast it. I have 1 spell slot left of second level. I click on that, and what that does is it rolls the dice for all the information that's down here, puts all that information in Roll20. Now my spell slots go down to 0, and all of these are grayed out because it lets me know I have used up all of my second level spell slots, and I can't cast any more second level spells until I take a short or long rest, depending on what those spells require you to regenerate with. The other important things that you'll need to keep an eye on are your spell modifiers. This is based off of your spellcasting ability. For this particular character, he uses Wisdom, so he has a +5. A general spell attack, so that he gets a +7. That means that I am proficient in spells, so I get not only the +5, but I also get my proficiency bonus, which is this +2, which is why you get +7. And finally, you have your save DC. This is your save difficulty class. There are some spells that either you cast and do an attack and you roll the dice to see if it hits, or an enemy may need to roll a saving throw versus your particular difficulty class, which is, for this character, a 15. For any of your spell classes that allow you to edit your spells, which I believe are most, if not all of them, on a long rest, what you can do is go to Manage Spells, and you have 2 different categories. You have your known spells, which are every spell that you know or have the capability of preparing. And then you have your prepared spells. These are the list of spells that will appear here in your character sheet, and these are the ones that these are the only ones that you can cast during a given encounter. So if it's not prepared, you won't be able to use it. If you want to change the differences, you go up to your known spells, and let's say, you know what, for the next adventure, I know I'm not going to need Shillelagh, so I'm going to remove that. And then I'm going to look, and you can click the little drop down and read a brief description of what the spell does. But let's say I really want Mold Earth, so I'm going to click Learn. Now all of these are grayed out because I've reached my maximum spells prepared. So I'm going to go down to my prepared spells, and Mold Earth is there for me, and it's also displayed over here, and I can display it on my virtual tabletop. So that's important. You can do that when you are preparing your spells either at night or in the morning before you go out on an adventure. Typically requires a long rest. Just reference your class's information on what it means to be able to prepare your spells, or ask your DM. Or you can go over to Features and Traits, highlight your spell casting, and then there is an entire section on preparing and casting spells that explains how and when you will be able to change your list of prepared spells.